I never thought a single text message could take the air out of my lungs. But there it was, just 10 words glowing coldly on my phone screen. You won't be joining us. My wife prefers to keep it only family. If you've ever had your heart break in silence without screaming or shattering glass, just a numb, deep snap in the middle of your chest, then you know how I felt. Hi, my name is Carol. I'm 60 years old. I raised my son Daniel on my own after my husband passed when Daniel was just 8. I worked 2 jobs, skipped vacations, and pinched pennies so he could have every opportunity. And yet, here I was, standing in my kitchen in my nice Sunday cardigan, holding a store-bought pecan pie I'd made just for her, Daniel's wife, while reading a message that made it clear I wasn't family anymore. Before we go further, let me ask you, have you ever felt like your whole world got rewritten without warning? Hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story too. Because this story, it doesn't stop with the text. Let me tell you how we got here. It started a month before that message. Daniel and Amanda had decided to renew their wedding vows. Something small, he said on the phone, just close friends and family. I didn't think much of it. In fact, I was thrilled. Amanda and I never had the warmest relationship, but I always tried. I'd sent her little cards on her birthday, took her out to lunch now and then, and when they bought their house, I gave them $15,000 for the down payment, quietly, no strings attached. So when Daniel asked if I could help cover part of the renewal ceremony, I didn't hesitate. It's just the venue deposit, he said. They're giving us a great deal if we book this week. How much? I asked. $6,000, he said, too quickly. I didn't even blink. I wired it the next morning. They said they'd have a small dinner afterward, just for family and a few guests. Amanda sent me a Pinterest board with dress colors. She even asked for my pecan pie recipe. For once, I thought maybe she was trying to make room for me. I ordered a new dress. It was champagne-colored with lace sleeves, tasteful, elegant, the kind of dress that says I'm proud of my family. I even booked a hair appointment and called in a favor to have my shoes dyed to match the dress. Silly little things, maybe, but when you're a mother, these moments matter. So imagine how I felt the night before the event when my phone buzzed at 7:14 p.m. Daniel. Just one message. No apology, no explanation. You won't be joining us. My wife prefers to keep it only family. I stood there in the middle of the kitchen, pie cooling on the counter, shoes polished by the door. I stared at the phone so long my hand began to ache from gripping it. What did he mean, only family? I was his family. I paid for the venue. I brought him into this world. And now I was being erased? And just like that, something in me began to shift. Not out of anger, not yet, but out of a long, bone-deep tiredness. I had sacrificed so much for this boy, maybe too much. In New Chapter, I take you back to the moment I realized this wasn't just about a text. It was about everything I had let go of, and what I was finally ready to take back. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the edge of my bed in that new dress, still on the hanger, laid out across my comforter like it was waiting for a story that would never happen. My pie went untouched. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that hums like a broken promise. At one point, I reached for my phone again. Maybe I read the message wrong. Maybe there was a second text I missed. There wasn't. No, sorry, Mom. No, Amanda is just nervous. No, it was a mistake. Just silence. And silence, I've learned, is its own kind of answer. By morning, the humiliation turned into something heavier, a deep, low ache that settled in my chest like a storm cloud that wouldn't leave. I made coffee, because muscle memory is stronger than heartbreak, and sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window. Across the street, Mrs. Landry was watering her garden, humming like it was just another Saturday. I wondered if she ever got texts like that from her kids. Then I thought, if someone asked me to explain what it feels like to be excluded from your own family, I wouldn't even know where to begin. It's not just pain, it's erasure, like you were written out of the script after playing the lead for decades. Around 10:30 a.m., I got a call from my daughter, Lauren. I debated not answering. I didn't want to cry on the phone, but something told me to pick up. She didn't even say hello. Just, "I saw Amanda's story on Instagram. You weren't there. What the hell is going on?" And that's when the tears finally came. I told her everything. Lauren was furious. "You paid for that venue, and they didn't even let you come? Are you kidding me?" She asked if I wanted her to call Daniel. I said no, because somewhere deep inside, something had clicked. This wasn't just about one moment. It was about years of being taken for granted, years of giving and giving, thinking that if I just tried hard enough, they'd finally see me as part of their life. But some people don't want to see you. Some people only want your support, not your presence. And so I sat down with a pen and a yellow notepad. I made a list, not out of spite, but out of clarity. I wrote down every time I said yes when I should have said no, every holiday I hosted, every check I wrote, every time I swallowed my pride to keep the peace. By the time I finished, I felt light, because for the first time in a long time, I saw things clearly. I had been loyal to a version of my son that no longer existed, and the version of me that tolerated this, she was done. I didn't know yet how things would unfold, but I knew this. That pie, it would go to the women's shelter across town. That dress, I'd wear it somewhere I felt celebrated, not tolerated. And that next text from Daniel, he'd have to wait a while, because I was finally learning how to choose myself. By new chapter, you'll find out what I did with the one piece of information Amanda didn't know I had, and how a quiet mother's power can turn silence into a storm. By Monday morning, I had slept, cried, and cleaned the entire house twice. Not because it needed it, but because I needed to feel like something in my life was still within my control. That's when I remembered the email. You see, when I paid for the engagement dinner venue, I'd done it through my account at the club. I'd received the booking confirmation, the invoice, and, most importantly, a guest list for seating coordination. So I pulled up the email and clicked on the attachment. There it was, a spreadsheet, 52 names, and mine was not one of them. You might think that would break a mother's heart, but no, it did something else. It gave me proof. No more justifying, no more hoping. Daniel didn't forget me. He deliberately left me out. That same day, Lauren stopped by with takeout and a look on her face like she'd just come from a battlefield. "You okay?" she asked gently, setting down a bag of sesame chicken. I nodded, but something in me had changed. I was done crying, done being the quiet, nice woman in the background. I showed her the guest list. Lauren read it once, then again. Then she said, "Mom, there are co-workers on here, people he hasn't even known that long, and not you?" Her voice cracked. "He'll regret this," she said quietly. But I wasn't waiting around for regret. Regret wouldn't fix the fact that my own child saw me as optional. I'll tell you something you learn at 62 that no one teaches you in your 30s. When someone shows you who they are, stop rewriting them. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened up the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out the little blue leather notebook I kept locked away. It held passwords, old notes, and one document I never thought I'd use, A trust document signed 10 years ago before Amanda came into the picture. You see, years ago, when I sold my small rental property business, I divided the proceeds into two trusts, one for Daniel, one for Lauren. But Daniel never knew that his trust had conditions. Conditions about responsibility, conditions about family. And now, let's just say I had every reason to reconsider who still met those conditions. The old me would have been afraid to even think about that. But the new me, the one staring down a son who'd erased her from his life, she was just getting started. That night, I'll show you what I found when I took one quiet trip and how Amanda's biggest mistake wasn't excluding me, it was underestimating me. I was standing at the florist's counter with a bouquet of deep pink peonies in my hand, my daughter-in-law's favorite. I had them wrapped in soft ivory paper and tied with a satin ribbon. I wanted everything to be perfect for her baby shower. After all, I was the one who booked the entire event, paid for the venue, the catering, the floral arch, even the monogrammed napkins. I was excited, nervous too. This was my first grandchild. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would finally bring us closer. That Ashley might start seeing me as part of the family, not just her husband's mother, but as someone who deeply cared. When I got home, still holding the flowers, my phone buzzed. It was from Jason, just one message. "Mom, please don't come. Ashley wants it to be only family." I stood there in my hallway, just stood there. I don't even remember putting my purse down. Only family. I blinked at those words like they were written in fire. They scorched every part of me. I was family. I am family. Wasn't I the one who helped them cover their mortgage when Jason was between jobs? The one who slipped money into his account when Ashley was finishing her master's and they had no income? I had paid for this shower. I had never asked for thanks, never expected ribbons or public recognition. But to be told, in a text, not to come to something I had lovingly planned down to the detail, it wasn't even the words. It was the tone, the cruelty and how casually it was said, like I was a vendor or a stranger. I sat down on the bench near the entryway, flowers in my lap. I don't remember crying. I didn't scream or break anything. No, something quieter happened, a click deep inside me, like a door slowly closing. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was stunned, like someone had tapped me on the shoulder and whispered, "You don't belong here anymore." Jason didn't call, didn't follow up. Hours passed, the event came and went. I saw photos later on Facebook. A sunny garden party, big smiles, pastel balloons, Ashley glowing in white lace, and not a single sign of me. People commented, "So beautiful, your mom must have been so proud. Love how involved the whole family is." I clicked like on a few, then closed the app. In New Chapter, I finally confront Jason face to face, but what he says next leaves me breathless. I was sipping lukewarm tea by the window when I saw them pull into the driveway, Caleb and his wife Lauren. I hadn't seen them since the brunch that wasn't, and truth be told, I wasn't expecting to see them again so soon. My hands instinctively tightened around the mug. A part of me hoped they were here to apologize, to say they'd made a mistake, that I was family, after all. But hope is a tricky thing, isn't it? It keeps you afloat and drowns you in the same breath. Lauren stepped out first, dressed like she'd walked off the page of a catalog. Caleb followed, phone in one hand, keys in the other. He didn't look up toward the house. That stung more than I cared to admit. I opened the door slowly, cautiously, the way you would for someone who's forgotten how to knock. "Oh, hi, Mom," Caleb said flatly, glancing over his shoulder. "Didn't know you were home." "I live here," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. Lauren barely offered a smile. "We just came by to grab the patio heater you said we could borrow." "Of course," I replied, stepping aside. "Help yourselves." They walked through my living room like it was a showroom. Caleb avoided eye contact. Lauren made sure not to brush against anything. I noticed they had already opened the back gate. I hadn't even heard it. They'd been in the backyard before I saw them through the window. They knew I was home. They just hoped I wouldn't come out. When Caleb returned with the heater in tow, he paused just long enough to say, "Thanks again, Mom. I'll text you sometime next week, okay?" I nodded, but I didn't speak. What was there left to say? Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen table staring at the checkbook. There it was, $4,500 for the venue deposit, $1,800 for the catering prepay, and $750 for the custom cake Lauren just had to have. My handwriting looked foreign on those checks now, like someone else had written them, someone more gullible, someone who believed she'd be welcome. I flipped open a folder from the drawer. Inside were the receipts, every last one. I was raised to believe you don't keep receipts when it comes to family. You give and you trust it'll be returned in love. But that folder said otherwise. It said, "Don't pretend this didn't happen." It said, "Stop making excuses for them." It said, "You're not crazy." I held that folder like it was armor, because from here on out, I knew I needed something to protect myself. And love, apparently, wasn't enough. Thanks a new chapter. A quiet confrontation at the grocery store ends with a stranger saying the words she needed to hear, and a plan begins to form. I didn't want to go out that day. The sky was gray, and my bones ached like they always did before the rain. But we were out of milk, and somehow being out of milk felt like being out of dignity. So I got dressed, wrapped my scarf tight, and drove to the store. I took my time, moving slow down each aisle, trying to remember who I used to be before all this happened. The one who threw dinner parties with candles and cloth napkins. The one who used to dance barefoot in the kitchen when her children were little. Now I moved like I was apologizing for taking up space. I was reaching for a can of soup when I heard it, a laugh I would recognize anywhere. Lauren. She was standing near the bakery with two women I didn't know, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and gesturing with the other. She's sweet, but, a little too involved. Caleb and I agreed early on we'd set boundaries. I mean, she even offered to help decorate. It's like, take a hint, right? My stomach turned. I stood there frozen, the soup can still in my hand. One of the women chuckled. Mothers-in-law are like that, just smile and nod. I didn't hear Lauren's reply. I turned the corner, walked toward the dairy section, and tried to breathe. They didn't see me, but I saw them. And I saw something else, too. A woman at the end of the aisle who had been stocking yogurt. She must have heard it all. She looked right at me. Not with pity, not with embarrassment, just quiet knowing. We made eye contact. I started to look away, ashamed I had been seen like this. But she surprised me. "You're her?" she asked gently, stepping closer. I blinked. "Sorry? The one who paid for the reception? The one who wasn't invited?" My throat tightened. I nodded slowly, not trusting myself to speak. She put a hand to her heart. "I saw your name on the registry. I'm the one doing the catering desserts. I'm sorry, that's all. I just wanted to say I'm sorry." And that was it. She didn't linger. She didn't ask questions. She just saw me and believed I mattered. And in that moment, something cracked open in me. I finished my shopping and drove home without turning on the radio. That night, I sat at my desk with a notepad and wrote one word at the top of the page. Enough. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was just clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when you finally stop waiting for someone else to make it right. I wasn't even supposed to be there. The invitation came in the mail, addressed to me by mistake. Or maybe it wasn't a mistake at all. Maybe the universe has a way of poking holes in polished lies. It was a birthday brunch, nothing fancy. Caleb's boss's wife, I think. They knew me as Mrs. Wallace back when I helped organize community events, before Lauren made sure my name slipped out of most rooms like a forgotten coat. But I went, not to cause a scene, just to sit in the back, to smile and nod and remind myself I still belonged in the world. It was held in one of those modern country club venues with tall windows and smiling waiters in black shirts. I wore a pale blue jacket and held a small gift in both hands, something I'd wrapped the way my mother taught me, neatly with care. I took a seat near the window, tucked behind a column. I wasn't trying to hide, not really, but I also didn't want to be noticed. Until I was. Caleb walked in 20 minutes later, hand resting gently on Lauren's lower back. They looked perfect. He had that confident grin he used to wear before life knocked it out of him. She wore a soft pink dress, just shy of being too expensive for brunch, and laughed with her whole mouth, a little too loud, a little too aware of who might be watching. I watched them mingle. She leaned in and whispered to someone. He poured wine like he'd been raised in an Italian villa, not a 2-bedroom house with a broken toaster. I wasn't angry, not then. I just felt empty, like watching a movie someone forgot to finish writing. Then came the part I'll never forget. They were near the cake table. Caleb glanced over and saw me. His eyes widened for just a second, not in warmth, but in alarm. He turned to Lauren and said something fast. She whipped her head toward me, and for a split second, our eyes met. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She didn't nod or even pretend. She turned her back. And that's when it happened. A woman across the table, maybe in her 70s, soft curls and pearls, leaned closer to me. "She didn't even send you a thank you card," she whispered, her eyes narrowing. I blinked. "Pardon?" "Everyone knows," she said softly, "about the rehearsal dinner, the flowers, the boutique hotel you paid for. Don't let them erase you." Her hand rested gently on mine for a heartbeat. "They forget," she said, "but we remember." I sat in my car long after the brunch ended, watching the other guests leave in pairs and cheerful groups. Their laughter floated past my windshield like steam rising from a teacup, light, detached, not meant for me. The pale blue gift I'd brought sat untouched on the passenger seat. I didn't cry, not yet, but my fingers shook as I pulled the seatbelt across my chest. When I got home, I opened the front door to silence. No phone calls, no texts, nothing. So I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened the wedding album. It had arrived months ago, unsolicited, from the photographer's studio, part of the package I'd paid for, even if I hadn't been invited to half the events. Page after page, Caleb and Lauren smiling beneath fairy lights, holding champagne glasses, standing beside people I didn't know. And then, finally, me. A single photo. Me helping Lauren into her wedding veil. No smile, just concentration on my face, my hands soft on her shoulders. The caption beneath it read, "Graceful moment between bride and family." Family. Not mother-in-law, not mother of the groom, just family. Like I'd been photobombing someone else's life. I closed the album. My chest felt like it was filled with wet cement. That night, I found the folder in my closet. It held every receipt, every invoice, every email from vendors and florists and caterers. I'd saved them all, just in case something went wrong. One stood out: $3,200, custom reception chairs for the head table. Lauren had insisted on them, said the standard chairs looked like a PTA meeting. So I paid for the elegant, tufted, high-back chairs she saw in a magazine. She said they'd be for the bride, groom, maid of honor, and me. I hadn't known, until that moment, that they'd replaced me with her college roommate at the last minute. The receipt was still in my name. So much beauty, so little truth. I didn't sleep that night, but I made a decision. By morning, I had written a note. Not a bitter one, just facts and one quiet sentence at the end. It's not about the chair. It's about where you placed me. I folded the note, placed it inside a small envelope, and attached it to the unopened gift box from brunch. Then I drove to their house. The lawn was immaculate. I left the box on their porch, right beneath the welcome mat that read, "Gather here with grateful hearts." I didn't ring the bell. I didn't need to. 3 days later, my phone buzzed while I was watering the hydrangeas. Unknown caller. I almost let it ring out, but something in my chest said, "Answer it." "Hi, Mrs. Wallace. This is Shannon. I hope you remember me. I was one of Lauren's bridesmaids." I blinked. "Yes, I remember you. You helped with the flowers, right?" She laughed nervously. "Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should call, but I found your note. Lauren tossed the gift box without opening it, but I saw the envelope." My hands went cold. Shannon hesitated. Then she said it. "I just wanted to tell you, you're not crazy, and you didn't imagine it. You were pushed out, on purpose." It turns out that Lauren had been telling a different version of me to everyone around her. "She always made it sound like you were distant," Shannon said, "cold, controlling. But when I saw you at the veil fitting, I saw something different." I swallowed hard. "What did you see?" "I saw someone who cared." Silence hung between us for a moment. Then Shannon added, "After your note, I started thinking about a lot of things. And you should know, Lauren didn't want you in the family pictures. That wasn't Caleb. That was her." A lump rose in my throat. I walked to the porch and sat on the swing like I used to when Caleb was young. She said it was to keep things aesthetic, but I think she just wanted you invisible. Later that evening, I went through my emails again. I wasn't sure what I was looking for until I saw it. A message from the photographer. "Hi, Carol. Final proofs attached. Just let us know which portraits you'd like included in your custom parent album." Custom parent album. I had never responded. Lauren had told me the package didn't include that. And yet, it was mine to claim. I replied to the photographer, "I'll take every candid photo you have with me in it, especially the ones they didn't order." I signed my name clearly and included the invoice ID Lauren had used. For once, I claimed something they had tried to erase. In New Chapter, the photo album arrives, and with it, the truth Lauren didn't want anyone to see. When the package arrived on my doorstep, I didn't open it right away. It sat on the table like a secret. A thick white envelope with gold embossed trim, stiff and elegant, just like the wedding had been, only this time it was mine. I brewed a cup of tea, then I slipped on my reading glasses, pulled the blinds open to let the morning light flood in, and finally sliced the envelope open with a letter opener my late husband had given me. Inside, a leather-bound album, soft ivory, my name printed delicately inside the cover. Carol Wallace, mother of the groom. I hadn't realized how much that title still mattered to me. I flipped the pages. Photo after photo of Caleb and Lauren, laughing, twirling, posing beneath the floral arch I'd paid for. But then, something changed. Page 12. A candid shot. Me adjusting Caleb's tie before the ceremony. His eyes closed, my hands steady. Page 14. Me in the back of the church, dabbing my eyes with a tissue as Lauren walked down the aisle. Page 17. Me standing alone during cocktail hour, holding a glass of water, surrounded by strangers who never spoke to me. Every photo they'd excluded was here. It was like watching my own quiet erasure in reverse. Frame by frame, I reclaimed every moment they tried to write me out of. Then I found it. The last page, a candid exildo I had never seen. Lauren, just after the ceremony, speaking with a photographer. Her hand was outstretched, pointing to something on his camera. Her expression? Cold, directive, not celebratory. And beside her, Caleb, his face unsure, caught mid-turn, his mouth slightly open, his eyes looking not at her, but past her, to me. I sat in silence. The story I'd been told, that Caleb had been too distracted, too overwhelmed to include me, suddenly cracked. He wasn't distracted. He was watching. And he did nothing. I closed the album and let my fingers rest on the leather cover. It wasn't revenge I felt. It was grief. Not the loud, stormy kind, but the deep, still kind that settles like fog. My son had stood by while I was erased, not because he hated me, but because it was easier for him to let someone else reshape the truth. But now I had it, my truth, preserved, printed, real. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the ground solid beneath me again. And in new chapter, Caleb shows up on her porch, but not with an apology. What he says instead changes everything. I was watering the lilies on my front porch when I heard footsteps, slow, hesitant. I didn't need to turn around. I knew that gait like I knew my own heartbeat. Caleb. He hadn't called. No warning, no message. Just showed up. After weeks of silence and one cold wedding album. He stood there at the bottom of my porch steps, holding nothing but his phone and that familiar look on his face, the one that said he wanted something. "Hi, Mom," he said, like nothing had happened, like I hadn't been cut from the most important day of his life. I set down the watering can, wiped my hands on a towel, and waited. "I thought we could talk," he mumbled. I raised an eyebrow. "About?" He looked down at his sneakers, then up at me. "Lauren's pregnant." There it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I've been thinking about what you must have felt." Just, "Lauren's pregnant." And I was supposed to forget it all. The erasure, the exclusion, the silence. I didn't answer. I turned and walked into the house, leaving the door open. He followed. We sat at the kitchen table, me with my tea, him fidgeting with his phone. "She wants a clean slate," he said. "No tension, no past stuff." I let out a short breath of disbelief. A clean slate? After what she did? He looked away. "She says you made things harder than they had to be." The audacity of that sentence hit me like a slap. I, who paid for the venue, the catering, the flowers, the dress alterations, even the hairstylist when Lauren's cousin bailed at the last minute. I, who stood alone at that wedding, pushed into the background like a ghost. I reached over to the drawer beside me and pulled out the wedding album. I slid it across the table. "Page 17, I said. "That's me, surrounded by strangers, no seat at the parents' table, no toast." He flipped it open with shaky hands. I watched as his face changed. I didn't say a word. Page after page, his expression hardened, then softened, then crumpled. When he reached the end, he closed the album and pushed it gently back toward me. "I didn't know," he whispered. I nodded. "You chose not to." The silence between us felt endless, but it wasn't angry. It was necessary. He finally asked, "What do you want from me?" And for once, I didn't hesitate. Accountability. He blinked. "That's it?" "No," I said. "I want you to stand up. For me, for your child. Because this," I gestured around, "this is what happens when you stay silent." He didn't promise me anything. He didn't fall into my arms. But when he left that day, he took the album with him. And for the first time, I felt the scales begin to tip. Just a little. Just enough. In New Chapter, a mysterious message arrives from Lauren's mother, and everything shifts. It came on a Tuesday. Rain was tapping at the kitchen window, and I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to check. "Hi, Carol. This is Meredith, Lauren's mom. I was hoping we could talk. Alone, please." I sat down right there on the floor. My heart didn't race. It dropped. Meredith, the woman I'd only seen from a distance at the wedding, the one who raised Lauren, the woman who ghosted me out of my own son's marriage. What did she want? A truce? A confession? A warning? I texted back, "I'm free Thursday morning, my place." Thursday came like thunder. Meredith arrived early. She looked polished but tired, like a woman who'd spent too long keeping secrets. She held a reusable shopping bag. Inside, store-bought muffins, a file folder, and tissues. Always the tissues. We sat at my table. The same table Caleb had stared down at 2 weeks ago. She didn't waste time. "I didn't know," she said. I blinked. Didn't know what? She took a long breath. "What Lauren did, the message she sent, the way she talked about you. I thought it was hormones, stress. But this," she tapped the folder, "this isn't just a misstep. It's a pattern." Inside were printouts, texts, emails, screenshots. Lauren had lied to her mother, too. Spun stories that painted me as overbearing, manipulative, even cruel. She'd written, "Carol tried to make the wedding about her. I had to cut her out before she ruined it all." She hadn't just deleted me from the ceremony, she'd rewritten the narrative entirely. "I don't excuse what my daughter did," Meredith said, "but I need you to know I didn't co-sign it." There were tears in her eyes, not dramatic ones, quiet, aching ones. "I've made mistakes too," she added, "but I won't sit quietly anymore." We sat in silence after that, two women bound not by love, but by the fallout of it. I poured us coffee. We talked, not as in-laws, not as adversaries, as women who knew the taste of betrayal, deep, familiar, sour. When she left, she hugged me. And for the first time since that awful text from Caleb, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Seen. In New Chapter, a twist Caleb never expected, Lauren's past isn't as clean as she claims, and the truth is about to surface. The sun was just starting to rise when I pulled into the parking lot. The air was crisp, cool, with a hint of spring. The kind of morning that used to make me think anything was possible. Today, it still did, just not for Caleb and Lauren. It was the morning of their family-only brunch, the one I'd been uninvited to. I parked across the street from the upscale venue they'd rented. White tents, valet parking, champagne flutes clinking before noon. I stayed in my car for a while. watching, remembering. Then I grabbed my purse, straightened my jacket, and stepped out. I wasn't here to make a scene. I was here to end one. Inside, people buzzed with polite chatter. Lauren's side of the family gathered near the entrance, laughing, sipping, smiling like the last few weeks had never happened. And there, standing tall with a smug little grin, was my son, Caleb. He didn't see me right away, but Lauren did. Her glass paused midair. Her smile froze. Her mother, Meredith, right beside her, calmly reached out and took her arm. I watched Lauren's eyes widen. She was already calculating, already trying to find the angle. That's when I stepped forward. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I handed Caleb a single envelope. Heavy, cream-colored, sealed with gold wax. It was the finalized breakdown of the wedding fund I'd financed. Venues, deposits, catering, itemized. At the bottom, void, revoked, reversed, paid by the mother of the groom until now. My lawyer had worked fast. He blinked at it like it was written in another language. I leaned in and whispered, "If you're going to cut me out, make sure you didn't build your life on my name first." Then I turned. I walked straight to Meredith, took her hand, and nodded a silent thank you. Then I left. No tears, no yelling, just peace and silence. And a son who finally understood that only family doesn't always mean what you think it does. The end. But if this story moved you, don't scroll past. Hit that like, leave a comment about how you would have handled this, and subscribe for more stories just like this one. Because women like us, we've got stories to tell, and they matter.